Hello everyone! For today's video, I wanted to share a time-lapse of a pet portrait that I got commissioned with. And while you watch the painting develop, I wanted to talk about a few things that I learned along the way, like what questions you should probably ask before starting, some of the fears that might come up before, during, and after, and overall things to keep in mind throughout the commission process. So I think it's really important to ask questions. And I'm not talking about the obvious questions like how big you want the painting or how much the painting will cost. Those are all pretty standard questions to ask. But some of the questions you might not think about, and I certainly didn't, are things like, what are 3 colors that you love and what are 3 colors that you hate? One of the things that really tripped me up during this painting was the color that I chose for both the dog and the background, because I really loved my color choices, but that didn't really mean that the customer was going to love those color choices. And I didn't really think about it until I had already been over halfway through the painting. I started thinking about the fact that not all people like pink, not all people like blue. And it's funny because I think that one of the main things you worry about with a pet portrait is just getting a likeness to their pet. So if I could go back in time, I would definitely ask, what are 3 colors you love and what are 3 colors you hate? Or if it's for someone else, what are 3 colors they love and what are 3 colors they hate? Another good question to ask is if they have any other photos of their dog or even a video of their dog to go along with the main picture that they want, to kind of give you a feel for that dog or that pet's personality, or just even getting a different look can be very helpful. For this painting, the dog is sleeping, and also it's a puppy picture. And you can tell she's a puppy because you can still see her pink skin under her fur. And usually an older dog, you won't be able to see quite as much of that under skin because they have more adult fur. And her face is kind of pushed up against the couch, so you can't really tell a whole lot what she looks like. Now for the owner, it might be very clear because they know this dog. But for the artist, I have literally never seen this dog before. So it can be very helpful to have multiple pictures or even video just to kind of go off of. Another thing you could ask is if there's anything that they want you to leave in the picture or if there's anything that they want you to take out of the picture. When someone wants a specific picture painted for them, there's something specific about that picture that they really like. And it could be multiple things, but as the artist, you kind of need to know if there's something specific that they really want left in. Like for this painting, I took out the background, mostly because it was going to be too busy, but also because the customer said that I didn't have to leave all the background stuff in. That was really helpful because whenever I went to start the painting, I knew that there was nothing specific about the background that they liked. For this other picture that they sent me, they may have wanted to keep the background because there's a really nice sky and almost like a sunset kind of going on. And that might have been something that they really enjoyed about that picture. Now, this is also something that I didn't really dive into. I didn't really ask a lot of questions, and I wish I had. Because one of the things I found out later was that something they really liked about this picture was the fact that her ear was flopped up on the couch. And as an artist, you could have chosen to lay the ear down and have it more curled under. But if I had done that, I would have essentially taken away one of the things that made that picture so special to them. So it's just a good idea to ask some of these questions before you even get started. That way you're not halfway through and kind of in panic mode about some of the choices that you've made artistically. Because unfortunately, no matter what you do, your internal critic is definitely going to come out and try to mess with your head. So you want to try to alleviate as much of that internal self-doubt that comes out. I think another big fear that I had while I was doing this painting, and even the last pet portrait that I did, I think my number one fear was getting a good enough likeness to their dog. Because I know I can paint a dog, but the question is, can I paint their dog? So, and one of the ways you can really work on getting that likeness is holding up the picture next to it and kind of standing back far away from it and kind of looking back and forth. And even if you have to go section by section, because sometimes you can have something in the right spot, but it could be a little bit too high or a little bit too low. And just changing that one thing could really put it in the perfect spot to where it looks a lot more like their dog or their pet. Another thing that's helpful just with portraits in general is looking at it through a mirror. So if you go get a handheld mirror and you stand with your back to it and look through the mirror at the painting, a lot of times you can pick up on things that aren't as accurate as they seem like, because your eyes lie to you. Especially if you've been working on something for a long amount of time and you haven't taken a break, it's really, really hard to find those subtle details that just need a little tweak. If you'll notice, while I did this painting, I put little pieces of masking tape on a couple of areas that were problem areas for me. And it's something where I noticed that I needed to go back and fix something, or something wasn't finished yet. And I would put a little piece of masking tape on that spot so that I wouldn't forget about it the next day when I went to work on it. And that was really helpful. I think something that helped me out a lot initially with even deciding to do this commission was just trying to sketch it out on a piece of paper first. When I first saw the photo that they wanted me to paint, I was like, oh no, I don't know if I can even draw something like that because of how she was posed. You know, she's all curled up and her long legs are kind of curled around, and I was worried that I wouldn't be able to really define what was going on. So I got some watercolor pencils and I just kind of sketched out a quick drawing and some color choices just to kind of prepare myself for, okay, if I do choose to do this, can I even do it? And just doing this quick sketch really kind of boosted my confidence, like, okay, I should be able to paint this and it look like a dog. Another thing that really helps is just letting it simmer. There comes a certain time in the painting process when it almost feels like you're painting and you're not really changing anything. There were a few times where I sat down for 4+ hours, and at the end of that painting session, I felt like I hadn't really even changed the painting that much. And it can be really frustrating to be sat there for that long and think that you have just wasted all this time, that you didn't make any progress on it. So I think when you start feeling that way, it's definitely a good idea to take a break or take a day to just not look at it and then come back to it. I also like to take snapshots when I'm done with a painting session so that the next time I do a painting session, I have something to compare it to. I know not everyone out there is going to be filming their work, but I would definitely recommend taking pictures throughout the process. That way, if you have been painting it for a long amount of time and you're like, wow, I haven't even changed that much, you can look back at the picture before you started that day and see how far you have taken it, just to kind of reassure yourself, because you can become a little paint blind, I guess. I would also not recommend showing your progress to anyone until you're to a point where you're very happy with it, because there's always ugly stages during a painting. And if you happen to show somebody and they say something negative about it, it can really crush your spirit. Even if they're not meaning to, even if they're trying to be constructive and give you good guidance, a lot of times because you're already not sure about the painting, it can really cripple your rhythm. So just save yourself an internal battle and don't show it to anybody unless you're really happy with it. And I think my final thought for this is just to keep going. There were several times during this painting that I wanted to quit, and I feel like that's just part of the process, because even when I'm painting something for myself, there are moments during that painting where you are going through an ugly phase, where you have to kind of make it look like a mess before you can fix it. And those parts of the painting are always hard to get through. and you always start doubting yourself. But it's important to stop, take some time away from it, or take a day, and then come back to it and keep going. Because it will get better, and you'll know when the painting is done. So if it feels incomplete, if there's something that feels off about it, just keep going. Because 9 times out of 10, when you keep working on it, it will look better. And it's a really good feeling whenever you get to the final end of a painting and you get to sign your name and show it to the customer. And there's also the fear that they might not like it. And that's a normal fear to have too. And they might not like it. Everybody has their own tastes. And in my personal opinion, it's okay if they don't like it. As long as you feel like you've done the best job you could do. I mean, that's literally all you can do. You are the artist that you are, and you paint the way that you paint. And anybody who commissions an artwork from a certain artist should know that. I wouldn't expect someone to ask me to paint something and paint it like Thomas Kinkade. I am not Thomas Kinkade. So, don't be too hard on yourself. 9 times out of 10, they're gonna love it. Try not to beat yourself up too much. And I'm telling you, and I'm telling me as well, trust me, I beat myself up plenty during this painting, but we all just need to stop it. Do what you do, paint what you paint. It's gonna be okay. Anyway, I hope you really enjoyed watching me paint this. I hope anything that I said was useful. I like to share things that I've learned about processes like this because, number one, it helps me reflect on what I've learned personally, but I also want to be able to help anyone out there who is in the same position as me, having the same kind of thoughts, or maybe just didn't think about something the same way. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and I would appreciate it if you give me a like. If you'd like to follow my art journey, you can subscribe. And if you have any questions for me, leave them in the comments. And I'll see y'all next time.